Welcome to Alberto's Universe. This is Mind Chronicles 2, Fluoride. For just a minute, let us imagine that you are in the business of exploiting people. More specifically, you are in the business of managing slaves. Your goal is to extract the maximum productivity from these slaves. It is very important to keep your slaves obedient. This will eliminate the possibility of any kind of revolt that could put your power at risk. I then ask you, would it be best if these slaves know that they are slaves? Or would it be better if they do not know what they are? What if they think that they are free? What if they cannot tell the difference between being free and being slaves? You see, throughout history, slaves who understood who they were produced as little as possible. Their main goal was to survive, not to produce. They then produced just enough not to be punished. If they could get away with doing nothing, they would. On the other hand, if slaves see themselves as free, if they see you as their protector, as their source of security, wouldn't that make them better slaves? Wouldn't that make them more productive? In this short recording, I will not dig into how modern slavery works. For that, I suggest that you read my book entitled Ascension Chronicles: Freeing Humanity from Slavery Through Higher Consciousness. The book explores the kind of slavery that we experience daily. It then provides a solution that is based on a higher consciousness, a higher understanding of all that there is. Interestingly, I'm not alone in the conclusion. Those who own the planet know that a misinformed slave, one with a low consciousness, is a better and more productive slave. One of the supporting pillars used to maintain low consciousness among the population is the deployment of fluoride. Yes, even your friendly neighborhood dentist is helping ensure that you and your children remain low in consciousness. They participate in the poisoning of your mind. Let's see the history of how this became one of the greatest attacks against our species. From the beginning, aluminum, fertilizer, and pesticide companies created the toxic waste known as fluoride. We are talking about the companies that are best known for harming people through the products they sell. Again, aluminum, fertilizers, and pesticides. Let that sink in. Originally, the companies dealt with their toxic waste in pretty much the same way that other corporations deal with their toxic byproducts. They secretly dumped it wherever they could. A lot of it went into rivers. Then, in 1901, the official story says that a young dentist named Frederick Mackay discovered that some of his patients suffered from a dental disease where teeth developed permanent brown spots. These patients lived in areas, he discovered, that where the water had an excess of fluoride. Keep in mind that fluoride is not a naturally occurring chemical. It is a industrial process waste. Interestingly, the official narrative did not focus on the unsightly brown spots, but on the fact that the teeth would no longer decay. It never occurred to this dentist that dead teeth cannot decay. In any case, McKay became the father of fluoride in your tap water. He suggested to the government to add fluoride to city water supplies. Allegedly, he argued that this would prevent tooth decay among the population. It appears that the government was glad to add fluoride to the city water due to the low cost to do so. Buying industrial waste, after all, does come at a low cost, especially when it eliminates the safe disposal costs faced by corporations like Alcoa. To them, what was a pesky cost, a pesky problem, became a profit center. So in 1945, Grand Rapids, Michigan became the first city to add toxic fluoride to its water. Today, we call the brown spots fluorosis. This is a disease that can affect teeth as well as bones. When people consume too much fluoride, they develop fluorosis. We also know now that Stalin gave fluoride to its concentration camp prisoners in Ukraine to keep them docile. This practice was later repeated by Hitler himself. So how does an average person find out if fluoride or any other chemical is dangerous? To find information about a chemical's hazard level and how to safely handle, store, and dispose of it, we look at what is called the safety data sheet. In this case, Section 6 of Fluoride's safety data sheet says should not be released into the environment. Think about this. Fluoride is not good for the environment, yet we're supposed to believe that it is good for humans. Dentists and regulators claim that fluoride is acceptable in small dosages. Well, spilling a container, a barrel of fluoride, would represent no more than a small dosage for the environment. After all, the environment is very large, right? Clearly, the safety data sheet provided by the companies that make the fluoride sends a different message to that which is claimed by the dental expert. It turns out that fluoride is acutely toxic. This means that its toxicity is immediate. Fluoride is also very corrosive. Dump fluoride over a concrete sidewalk and observe as it creates a hole right in front of your eyes. But even with this example, most people fail to see how fluoride affects them. Throughout the body, fluoride affects our metabolism, first of all. Do you ever wonder why so many people feel lethargic all the time? Fluoride directly inhibits the mitochondrial electron transport chain. Remember, we are electric beings. So fluoride makes it difficult for us to be who we're supposed to be. In the brain, fluoride is much more sinister. Multiple studies have identified the neurodevelopmental effects of fluoride. Things or diseases like attention deficit hyperdisorder and a lower intelligence result when fluoride interferes with the neurotransmitters in the brain. On January 6, 2025, that is very recently, a group of scientists led by Kyla W. Taylor published on the Journal of the American Medical Association on Pediatrics a comprehensive analysis of all previous studies from around the world. These studies looked at the effect of fluoride on children's intelligence. The title of the study was Fluoride Exposure in Children's IQ Scores. They found 64 studies on the subject, reporting an inverse relationship between fluoride exposure and children's IQ. In other words, the more fluoride you give your children, the less intelligent they become. This is not a case of poorly placed speculation. These are scientific studies from around the world, but the real problem is that fluoride damages the pineal gland. The famous philosopher and scientist René Descartes, who is perhaps best known for saying, "I think, therefore I am," he was also recognized for another quote regarding the pineal gland. He described the pineal gland as the principal seat of the soul. In other words, our pineal gland is how we connect with the non-physical, with our soul, and with God. This means that any attack against the pineal gland is really targeting our connection to our Creator. Not only does fluoride attack the neuron connections that form the pineal gland, it also targets the crystals inside of it. You see, drinking battery acid would harm our body, but it would not harm the pineal gland. This is because battery acid, as bad as it may be, does not dissolve silica, despite being highly corrosive. Because of it, battery acid would not cut a hole in concrete. But fluoride does. So fluoride is much more toxic to us than battery acid would be. Against fluoride, our pineal gland is truly vulnerable. To connect outside of our reality, our pineal gland behaves as a piezoelectric transmitter. This is not the same as electromagnetic connections or radiation. The reason why remote viewers can see inside of a Faraday cage that surrounds a secret room inside of the Pentagon, for example, is because of this piezoelectric mechanism. To be piezoelectric, the pineal gland has to incorporate crystals inside of it. These crystals are silica-based. As reference, sand is made of silica. In other words, just as fluoride dissolves concrete, it also dissolves the crystals within the pineal gland. The result is that people who periodically consume city water, whether through their skin or through ingestion, like drinking it, they will struggle to become intuitive. Without intuition, these people will be easy target for lies. Fluoride in the water is therefore a powerful way to keep slaves from finding out that they are slaves. The lesson from this Mind Chronicles 2 is to thus stop all exposure to fluoride as soon as possible. Now, as I have done with the other Mind Chronicle, number 1, this is the time to talk about the Hemi-sync recordings. I'm adding tools to help you develop your telepathic ability through these recordings. This time, I'm introducing 2 Hemi-sync recordings, number 21 and number 26. The original recording, the number 1, created hemispherical links at half cycle intervals starting with half a hertz and ending with 21 hertz. So 0.5 hertz to 21 hertz. Today's recordings will add bandwidth to your capabilities. Number 21 will create hemispherical links at half cycle intervals, starting with 47.5 hertz and ending with 72 hertz. Meanwhile, number 26 will create hemispherical links at half cycle intervals, starting with 71.5 hertz and ending with 96 hertz. But do not worry, next time we will address the gap between 22 hertz, which is the top of recording number 1, and 47 hertz, which is the bottom of recording number 21. Please note that the number of each recording is in no way an indication of performance. I simply gave the recordings names in order to define when they were created. In other words, number 1 to the first one, number 21 to the 21st recording that I created. In this case, I am sharing with you the best recordings, the most effective ones. Just as it was the case with the original Hemi-sync, you will need to listen through headphones. Typical home and car speakers will not work because we need the left signal or the left sound to go exclusively to the left ear and the right sound to go exclusively to the right ear. And when you're sitting in front of home speakers or car speakers, the left ear will hear both the signal coming from the left and from the right speakers. This isolation is essential for the creation of the hemi-sync connections, the connections between the 2 brain hemispheres. When it comes to establishing a strong connection between the 2 hemispheres of our brain, practice makes perfect. So do not abandon the original recording. Don't think that because we have this 21 and 26 number recordings, we should no longer do number 1. They are not mutually exclusive. They're all very valuable. In fact, all recordings I'll present through this series are equally valuable. It is thus better to listen to each recording as part of an ongoing cycle. If a recording gives you a headache, take a break. Please understand that new neurons are being created with each additional tone pair. Being that each recording has at least 20 pairs per ear, this means that your brain is very active when listening to these recordings. A side note here is to consider using the recordings right before taking a test for school or before a job interview, for example. The recordings have a characteristic where they activate the brain in a way that makes you very sharp, very intelligent immediately after you listen. So I hope that you enjoy the recordings, and I hope that you found a way to stop consuming fluoride in as many ways as you can. I know that fluoride is still available or still going to be pumped through the water in many cities, and I know that there's not a lot we can do at this time. But with more people informed about it, we'll eventually protect our children, our future generations from being exposed to such a hideous mind control. Enjoy the Hemi-syncs, and thank you for listening.